And in the meantime, we will have like a 20 minutes talk first, and then we'll have like a exchange. But in the meantime, feel free to use the chat. And Teresa Lennon, she is our chat moderator. This is a whole new job in the Corona era, a very important job. She will look at all your comments, and if there are many comments and many questions, she will ask me to pose them to the speakers. Okay, so I would like to start with Pat Daly, the Chief Executive of Limerick. Well, welcome. Very nice to have you. And I would like to ask you first of all, if you can tell something about some really inspiring citizen-centered projects in your municipality, and also why you find them inspiring.
Thanks, Gert, and good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here, and well done on getting that technology working. Fair play. It's difficult at the best of times, so you did a great job. I'm delighted to be here. I'm joined by my colleague Terry Connolly, who heads up our EU office in Council. We're probably a kind of although a mid-sized council, we have about 1,300 employees. We are a very large financial council in that we are about €1 billion budget. That's distorted a little bit because we run a major centre for government on housing payments. But we've been doing quite a lot in innovation in the last number of years. We amalgamated as a city council and a county council in 2014, which is a whole change of how we do local government here. So we brought our urban area closer to our rural area. That has been very significant in that we are speaking and working with one voice with our partners in the public and private arena. And that's interesting because it really has a big impact on planning management, licensing, and development. So that's been quite a kind of an interesting development. The other thing is we've done a lot of things as a council. We've done quite a lot of work in putting special purpose vehicles together to do development. So we actually have a development arm called Limerick 2030. We have a big economic and spatial plan that is looking to reform and rechange and transform Limerick and the county out to 2030. And that's really the first, amazingly, the first such plan that was done for a city region in the country in 2013-14 as part of the amalgamation. And it looked at bringing planning, the physical and urban planning together with economic job creation. And really the job creation has been very powerful. We've created in the last 7 years about 18,000 jobs. Some of that has been very interesting. It has been very good around maybe putting even a new film studio in Limerick in the region, a whole new sector. And what we've been doing is kind of maximizing opportunities. So we actually have a number of FDI companies co-located with us in our buildings. So maximizing energy efficiency, bringing job creation to bear on that, and then making things happen around the various sectors. We also have a dedicated innovation arm, which is called Innovate Limerick, and its idea is to open up innovation. It's actually to bring the innovators together. We found that if we had a development arm to build buildings, well, how were we going to fill them? And we were working very closely with a lot of our stakeholder agencies who do a lot of the supports for job creation. But we found a lot of the partners were probably not talking or coming on a common agenda. And part of that agenda then in innovation was around green energy. We're a very climate change city. We're a tidal city. We're on the mouth of the estuary. If I could show you the window that's just at my side, you'll see a beautiful riverscape down to the estuary. So it makes us a very tidal city. We have a 6-meter tide that flows through, and of course then that raises incidents of flooding. It raises incidents of design and urban planning, and we've been blending all the kind of various strategies together. So at the moment we've just embarked on our new development plan, which is a statutory document that brings all the development plan aspects together. So how we see ourselves living together, how we see ourselves developing over the next 7 to 10 years is actually in the middle of planning at the moment. So I'm very proud of the dialogue we're doing because we're using technology. We're planning. This is a major exercise. It takes over nearly a year of consultation and then a year to get it through the system here into council. we're doing it all nearly online. We're doing it all in workshop. We're doing it all in virtual surrounds. And yet we're getting very rich data. I have to compliment our team who are doing that in forward planning, and indeed a lot of colleagues in the teams around that. And the engagement with the citizen has been very, very strong. We participated there about a month ago in a virtual chat room with nearly 200 people. I doubt if we would have gotten the 200 people into a general space to look and talk about the development plan. And the question we set was the vision for Limerick. What do you want for Limerick in the next 10 years? And the vast majority of the responses was to be a clean, green, livable city and county. So that's going to be the base of our plan. And we've been very lucky in some of the EU projects we've been working on. We've been awarded the Green Leaf, which we are with Mechlin on that in 2020. We are part then of the ORBAC 2 on the Health and Green Space agenda, and linking green, because about 30% of Limerick is blue, which is the riverway, and green, which is the parks. And we're quite a kind of environmental friendly city anyway. We're built on a grid system, so we're quite a Georgian city. Now, the great thing about Georgian cities is they were very innovative in terms of urban planning of their time, and they're laid out in a grid. So think of Manhattan. Limerick is the same, but on a smaller scale. And in fact, there is kind of anecdotal evidence that did Limerick influence Manhattan, or maybe the other way around, or was this the rigour in planning at the time? But we like to think that we helped New York out a little bit more than they did us. So we can't kind of prove that, but we say it anyway. Yeah. And the interesting thing about it is they were very innovative buildings at the time, because they used energy. They used coal bunkers and heatings in the basement to heat the houses. And it's strange that they are very difficult to work with now because of planning laws and heritage laws. But what we're trying to do is bring new forms of energy management into the redevelopment of these buildings. And that's been handled by our architectural team on the Rosy Web that some of you may know works closely with Terry. And that is a big major project I call the City Exchange, where we're one of 2 EU lighthouse cities, the other in Trondheim in Norway. So we're sharing best practice. If we can crack redeveloping the Georgian core in the city, and many of our buildings in the county are very of the Georgian period, I think we'll have done a big favour for Irish buildings, because a lot of the cities around and urban areas or towns are built on a Georgian basis. So if we can figure out how we can bring them to life, bring them back into development, bring them into energy efficiency, that'll be very, very critical in how we develop going forward. And it's the big block at the moment for Limerick. How do we develop our Georgian core efficiently, effectively? Because once you start getting into these buildings, it can become very expensive. But we're beginning to make headway, and the government are giving us some very good supports to make that happen, in addition to the great EU projects that we've been involved in. So that's exciting for us too, panel. How we're using the best thinking in Europe, the support of the grant aid, the government support here, to actually change how we actually plan and how we will be living. And probably if there's a kind of how we communicate sometimes can be a bit jarring, because the councils and local authorities, if others are on the call, probably find we tend to speak to people as in the form of consultations on thorny issues like projects, roads closures, redevelopments, street closures. And it probably brings a little bit of confrontation into it, whereas we probably want to open up a much more open dialogue, a more consistent dialogue. That's part of the natural work we do, rather than just around projects. And our team are working on that. We're going to develop a kind of what we call an engage center, where today, if you were walking in town and you figured you'd something to say about our energy efficiency program, our climate change program, our transportation, you could walk in, you could meet the architectural team, the urban planning team, and we're probably going to relocate them into a space. And they may even be co-sharing there with the university team that are coming to town, and just talk about Limerick. Then you can say, well, I think we should do X, Y, or Z. You could meet someone who could make that, probably bring it to bear onto some thought process or a platform. And I think that will be very dynamic, because it'll stop the challenging discussions we tend to have, and it'll be very much more open discussion and a two-way dialogue. So We're at a great time.
Can I try to summarize, Pat, and move? It's very interesting, but we have a few more speakers, and I would like to make a connection, a natural connection from your speech to Mechelen, which is also a Greenleaf city, and you know, they probably also have something, the same thoughts like you have about engaging citizens beyond single projects.
Yeah.
Huh? And they have an experience with that. The youth climate movement has pushed the city council and the municipality forward. And how that happened, Arnoud Roelens from Mechelen, he is the climate coordinator of the city of Mechelen, can tell us a bit more about. And then we can come back, you know, we have two other speakers and we come back to you for a further discussion.
Perfect.
So Arnoud, can I give you the floor?
Yes, thank you. And also hi to Limerick. As a co-winner, we feel connected. And we also feel connected through the same challenges. We're also tidal, although we're much inland, we also feel the tide coming in. But I want to focus on Youth for Climate. I have to excuse our Youth for Climate local leader, Jasper Bayens, who was last minute called away by the corona crisis. But I must say, I would have much more wanted him to be here because they're so inspiring. I must say, Youth for Climate for us, they were literally at our gate. They were protesting at the gate of the city hall and saying, we want to say in our local climate debate. So we said, okay, it was actually good timing because at the time we were drafting a new climate plan. So we said, come in. We brought them into the council room and they discussed directly with policymakers. And I must say it was a very interesting discussion because they were of the most prepared citizens I have ever met. We do a lot of commissions, we do a lot of participation moments, we do a lot of those things. And those were actually citizens who said, okay, interesting, but I've got your numbers here. I've been checking them online, I've been cross-checking them. I think there's a problem here, there's a problem there. So they were very, very much informed. So it was very interesting to see how we could work together with them. So they were at the front line of policy making. And following on that, on the Youth for Climate, we established the Climate Council. There, all participants are welcome, not only youth, but we also have local companies. We have engaged citizens, citizens who work on citizen science and other things, and we bring them together. So that's over 200 people, and they come and they advise us on different policies. And I must say, I think to make the bridge between the policy and the Youth for Climate, to see how we can really make their ambition happen. And they're not only inspirational, but they're also ambitious. I remember we were saying that, okay, we're going to go for the Covenant of Mayors, 40% of CO2 reduction. We're very proud of that. And they said, so 40%, that's it? You're not going to go any further than 40%. So they're really pushing our ambitions. There was no way we're going to undercut the 40%. So I think that way, and I also must admit, the interesting thing about participation, it's about taking away barriers. I very much liked how you said, Pat, that you said that the city hall is open. People can walk in and discuss with us. I think that's what participation is about. We cannot underestimate how much we are perceived as a closed fortress. We're a government. We're something that people say, okay, how do I get into a fortress? How do I talk with them? And it's about taking away barriers. It's about really inviting people in, giving them, sometimes it's small grants, it's ways of doing things, but it's taking away all the barriers so they can discuss directly with us. And we're also very much surprised or also enthusiastic by the things they do and by the ideas they bring. They're not unrealistic. I think the second biggest barrier we have to do is to dream together. To dream of the green Europe. I think that's the thing we really have to push out. And I want to just mention one small project that I just got in today is where a citizens cooperative said we're going to ask children to make their green city, to envision their green city. I think this is really, children are generally better at these things because their creativity is unbounded and they can go anywhere. We're very much closed, but they're open. So there's over 100 children now who are actually making art projects on the green city. And I think that's the visions we have to work towards and making our city gates, literally opening them and getting the people in. So I think that's in Mechelen. And I must say, I would have much preferred for Jasper to be here. Not that we're not very enthusiastic to be here, but they could tell it in such much more engaging way. And they really opened our eyes. So there's no way we're going to get around them. So we have to work together with them. Not that we would want to get around them. They're the future generation. They're the future inhabitants. And just one last point, inhabitants, the point is to get everybody proud. You have to work towards a dream 20 years ago, if at that time I was 15, I was talking with other youngsters from other cities. They were saying, "Yeah, oh, you're from Mechelen. That's kind of a weird place, right? It's not really that good reputation." If now I go to places, maybe my age changed, but also my city changed. It's really, people say, okay, your city changed. It's so much more nice to be there. And why is it nice? Because we opened up green spaces, we opened up blue spaces. It's a green and livable city. So I think that's something you have to put people engaged, they have to be proud of the city, and then they will want to collaborate. People bring citizen science projects and all kinds of projects to us because we're open, but because they're proud of their city, because they want to be part of it, because they are part of it.
Well, thank you very much, Arnoud. I think you did a good job replacing your youth movement, and you're still not that old yourself, so I wouldn't be too modest, about your contribution, which is also full of youthful fire, I would say. Now I would like to go to Merit Tatar from the city of Tartu. She is a board member and researcher at the Institute of Baltic Studies, and this, of course, is also going on in Eastern Europe. Sometimes we think as Western Europeans, everything happens in our countries, but that's definitely not the case. What I've seen from her and read from her it sounds very innovative, very exciting. And so please, Merit, can you tell a bit about, your strategy to get citizens engaged and some of the highlights of which you're most proud? Like you told me about participative budgeting, for example. This could be one example, but I'm sure you have more to tell us. So yes. Please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, and hello. And I'm also very pleased to be part of this discussion and really reflect some of our experience from Tartu. Tartu is actually also very prone to energy transition, and it's targeting to be climate neutral by 2050, but the city has very ambitious targets already by 2030. And this is a lot thanks to one of the biggest project in Tartu, which is funded by Horizon 2020. It's Smart and City. So Tartu is also one of the smart lighthouse cities in this European smart cities communities. And my experience actually comes from this project, as I am coordinating, or representing then one co-creation group within this biggest local project. But before maybe giving some examples of that, I wanted to mention also participative budgeting, because this is one of the high successes in Tartu already for 8 years. And of course, it was very new 8 years ago, and there were certain backlashes. So a lot of changes had to be made after the first year of introducing this very citizen-led process. And nowadays, it really is an example how citizens and communities come together. They realize what is needed for them, and they can put forward those ideas. And the city, there is a trust that the city really goes along with those ideas, and there is an impact because all those projects have been visual and really realized and have made the city image so that everybody can see that these ideas are there and they have been done. So what has been said about, we had this poll where we noticed that community building is important and trust into public administration. And I think this kind of project really helps to achieve that. But of course, there is a long way, there has been a long way and the lessons learned. But I think that nowadays it's a good example how citizens really can participate, and it has brought along changes in the community feeling. We can see that in different parts of the city, these local communities are really cooperating, coming together, they are growing, and they are more and more visible in the planning processes as well, which is a definite impact of this kind of activity. In this big Smart and City project, where we are totally kind of rephrasing what the city has to do in this green transition, also building this proudness of the city, because not only physical renovations or public transport transition is part of that project, but also we are working a lot in this daily citizen engagement and co-creation group with topics like how to how to raise the awareness of the whole city, how to bring in citizens, not just into that project, because, you know, being this project based is also an issue for Tartu in many cases, but we also want to have this engagement and co-creation part of cities everyday, like everyday routine, so to say. And what we see practically, it's very difficult job to do. We have very many organizations in that co-creation group within Smart City project, city, university, companies, even individual citizens at some points, researchers like us, green organizations, and working together for over 5 years now. A lot of good things have happened. Tartu is on the picture. People are coming along with discussions. We have a big, very difficult art project, which is really visible in the city, meaning that those new smart panel buildings are now also accompanied with big murals, artworks. And the aim of this is, of course, to announce that we are the smart green city, and of course to make the city more beautiful at the same time. But these processes are very difficult, and no matter how hard you try, it really, you feel always that actually you can do more, but I think it is important that those different viewpoints come together and we can use new tools. So Tartu has started to use much more digital tools in order to involve citizens to map, for example, the public transport system was transferred a couple of years ago totally, like regarding buses, bus routes, introducing electric bike sharing system, and all this was done together with citizens through different means, like digital means, planning through the map, digital map, using mobile positioning data, which is also quite innovative way of actually using data for local planning. And also using traditional means, like a lot of discussions, thousands of feedback forms, and actually giving responses to all of them, because this trust is important. And we have realized that you need to really be responsive, and there's it's no meaning to engage if you are not able to respond, even if it's like overwhelming, this feedback. So,
okay, thanks for this so far. I mean, we still have one speaker, Merine Baronian, I hope I pronounced properly, who is from the city of Versailles. We'll come back to you later with some questions from the audience, but thank you for this enlightening presentation. Merine, can I give you the floor, please?
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, everyone. When I think about engagement of citizens or building new alliance, I think about our strong network of association, about our neighborhood council in each district made up of volunteers. We work very closely with them because they are close to citizens, because they are citizens. If I can give some example of different projects, the city, for example, must analyze the social needs of the citizens, and we decide to work with our neighborhood council to know their needs. And thanks this work, we succeed to launch a new project of a new neighborhood house, because the first neighborhood house was not central enough and was also not very functional. And thanks, for example, this work with them, the city realized the real needs of the citizen in this district. We have some different other projects like family garden or share garden, who are impulsed from different associations, but the city is always here to help them. And we used to say in Versailles that without association, a lot of projects will not succeed. For example, in mobility, in energy, or for a green topic like garden, like a new park. And we have also a new project, a new European project, Go Green Roots. The topic is to improve health and well-being in the city by building green infrastructure. And we really want, thanks this new project, to involve citizens and to give them a real, to be really engaged in the co-creation step. We will create local group and we will ask them to manage it and to help us to create this new green infrastructure and to have their feedback, say, point of view, to really be very close to their needs in each district we want to implement it, for example.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I would like to give the floor to any questions from the audience that are popping up. Otherwise, I will have a few questions myself. So you can raise your hand. Just unmute your microphone and start to talk. That's also a method. Not maybe the most elegant, but it does work. Okay, if there's nobody at this stage, then I will just ask, I think, one question which is really important. We have somebody also here from the European Commission, Justina from DG Region. So it's important also to talk about what can Europe do? What can the European institutions do, to further promote citizens' engagement and these projects you were talking about? So maybe Melien, you can start but keep it brief, please. A few sentences. What is your key recommendation to the European Commission when it comes to citizens' engagement?
Yes, I think to keep citizens involved in projects, it needs to be close to their needs, their daily needs. And as an engineer in the city, we really realize that we need advice or help to be focused on the scale of the project. When the project is maybe too big or not, or maybe too strategic, sometimes it's very far from the needs of citizens. And I think the Europe can help citizens to be more engaged in this kind of project and to be really close to their daily issue.
And how should the Commission? How can the Commission know what is close to the need of citizens? How should they find out?
Yeah, I think by sharing other initiatives from other cities, because thanks because it's our first European project, Go Green Roots, and we really realize that we have the same issue across Europe, but maybe not the same experiences with different topics. Other cities are maybe more concerned about digital innovation, about mobility, and it's really useful for other cities to see how they can solve problem, what kind of solutions they use. And sometimes with my colleagues, we think that it's not possible or it's maybe complicated. And we saw that in other cities, they find a way to fix it. And it's really useful because it gave us real example, thanks European project, thanks this network, thanks this kind of webinar, for example, to share.
Okay, so basically what you're saying, it's better to, sometimes it's good to steal a good idea from somebody else, huh? That's allowed. That's allowed. Yes. Okay. Then I give that sounds like and then the Commission should enable the exchange between cities and regions, to make them able to steal the ideas, huh? To make it very simple. Okay, and then I would like to go back to Pat. I'm sure, Pat, you also have a recommendation for the European Commission.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I really enjoyed the presentations. We're all in a common boat. I think maybe to pick up with Melien's point, I think we could make more use of our MEPs. that if we can connect our MEPs to maybe be mentors or adopt a particular project or theme, that could be quite useful, because there may be a little perception of a disconnect. They do their jobs and very important work, but maybe there's projects on the ground that we could use or they could use with us. I think that would be something that we should think about.
Okay. Well, that's a really good and precise, and it's also something we can propose to Karian when he comes later. Would he like to adopt a project? Huh? Yeah, very good. Then I'm going to Arnoud. If you have any recommendation for the European Commission.
Yeah, I would like to elaborate on my previous point that you have to make the dream big enough. And the Green Deal is really a turnaround point. And for us, if the Commission continues to communicate on this and really makes it very clear for everyone that this is the future for Europe, it's going to be a green Europe, it's going to be a Europe that resonates around the world and is going to be inspiring, I think that's something everybody is going to be able to contribute to. So I don't think, although there's often talk of the distance between the member states and the Commission or the Parliament, never underestimate that you have to set out the collective dream and ambition. And I would like to also say on the other points, the exchange and the scale up of existing solutions is tremendously important. We have had experience in some European projects, and in the beginning we were quite skeptical of what are we going to learn out of these projects. But in the end, we are very, very much enthusiastic about what other solutions we could take. For example, we would be more interesting also to learning on how Southern European countries cope with heating stress. Heat stress is something that we are going to already today and in the future we're going to be seeing much more in our countries. So that's something they obviously have a long history in. So I think we can exchange on many subjects, and also to move beyond and to have a broad interpretation of innovation. I know Europe is very much focused on innovation. I think that's a good agenda, but we have to look at innovation in a very broad way. It's not about always inventing something new. It can be doing things that already exist in a new way or scaling up. So to have a broad take on innovation and not focus on always inventing something new.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for your answer. We have a question from the floor, from Terry from Limerick. So Teresa, you have that question. Can you ask it? Yes. To which speaker? Maybe ask it to Merit, because she is it's her turn, you know.
Yes, okay. So the question is, how important do you think behavior change is, and how can it be done without people feeling pushed into change?
Can you repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah. How important do you think behavioral change is? And how,
yeah.
So how do you change behavior without them feeling pushed?
Yes, well, I think that behavioral changes are very important. And actually, just to follow up also a bit, well, answering this question, but also follow up the previous one, I think what the European Union is doing with this Green Deal and the new calls, as you know, many of them are actually addressing this issue a lot, because cities need to know how the behavior, how people act and how this could be influenced so that both parties are happy. And so all those the citizen science, awareness raising activities that really, accepting new technologies by people, these are the key issues here. And for example, we also in Tartu, we struggle a lot with that, because our kind of aim is to act smartly all together in the city and to participate in long-term planning processes, which actually impact a lot the behavioral change. How to do it? It's difficult. It's just engaging like crazy, I would say, because this transition is slow to happen. Behavioral change is very slow to happen. It can take years to move to the next state in thinking. I'm not saying what is wrong or what is right, but we all aim for greener societies. So it's using innovative tools, combining digital tools, trying to find ways which suits for different parts of the society, because engaging younger people can be totally different while engaging elderly. So you need to combine different things. And for that, this practice change continuing with project is very important, because even though remaining on project level, maybe it's not ideal, but it can be part of the daily routine a couple of years from now, as we have seen in many cases, also in case of Tartu with participative budgeting, which is also behavioral change project actually. So
well, thank you. We have another question coming in from Owen. Maybe Teresa, you can read the question out, and then I propose that the Marine starts to answer, and then maybe other speakers can kick in.
Okay, so my colleague Owen from the Eastern and Midlands Regional Assembly in Dublin is asking, what can we do to encourage private sector development, the private development sector to engage seriously with citizens' initiatives? So how do we involve the private sector?
Yeah, I think thanks a local group, for example, in different projects, we just create innovative unit in the city in order to answer to little scale issue for citizens, and we really want to work closely with the private sector, like SMEs, for example. So it's an opportunity to test a new solution, to help them also to develop their products. So it can be a way to work with them with more little scale projects in a short term, and if it's a success, to develop this kind of project across the city. So I think also the change our way to work with the private sector, not only like the city with a company, but like a partner, as you can see in a European project. It's not the same relationship between the city and the SMEs or our society. So I think work with them as a partner could help, and on different kind of project for the citizen.
Okay, well, regrettably, I think we are almost out of time. We have 1 minute 35 seconds left. So I would like to mention to everybody that Justina Podralska from DG Region, who has been kind enough to agree to report back to the main session. She does that on a personal basis, not as a spokesperson of the European Commission, but just to wrap up what's being said here in this working group. So Justina, thank you very much for taking that important role. And I think, yeah, and I think we could go on with for a long time with this discussion. What struck me is also the passion. Everybody is so passionate. I almost felt a bit embarrassed to stop some of the speeches, but yeah, that is what you have to do as a moderator. But I think everybody's very passionate, and I think there's also a big consensus that the Green Deal is the right way to go, and it should even be strengthened. And the Commission should definitely continue, to like I think Arnold said very beautifully, to promote this collective dream. And we can all share and help to promote that as well. So I think we're going back to the main session now. We're just kicked out of this room, I guess. That's how it works in 14 seconds from now. It's not a very democratic tool in this aspect.
Well done, Chairman. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Voilà, c'est maintenant.